Commander Jake Morrison floated in the darkness of his dying ship. The Meridian Hope was breaking apart piece by piece. What started as a simple diplomatic mission to the Krell Empire had turned into a death sentence. The aliens had betrayed them without warning and without mercy. They attacked with everything they had and left the human vessel crippled and bleeding in the void of neutral space. Life support was failing fast. Jake could hear the alarms screaming through the corridors, but he had long stopped paying attention to them. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7 had killed half his crew in the first hour. The explosive decompression took them before they could even scream. Now the remaining survivors huddled together in the command center. 23 people trying to share oxygen that would not last another 12 hours, maybe less if they kept moving around. Lieutenant Amy Parker worked at the communications console. Her hand shook as she typed the same distress signal over and over again. She had been sending it for 9 hours straight. But everyone on the bridge knew the truth that nobody wanted to say out loud. They were too far from human space. No Federation ship could reach them in time. No rescue was coming. They would die here in the cold and the dark, and nobody would ever know what happened to them. Jake pulled himself across the command center using the handholds on the walls. Gravity had failed 6 hours ago. Everything that was not tied down floated in the air around them. Tools and data pads and drops of blood from the wounded crew members. He reached Amy and put a hand on her shoulder. She did not stop typing. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission," Amy said. Her voice was hollow and empty. "It is from the Krell flagship." Jake felt his stomach drop. He pulled himself to the main console and activated the view screen. The display flickered and cracked, but the image came through clear enough. The scaled face of Commander Vexthor appeared. His reptilian eyes gleamed with something that looked like satisfaction. Maybe even pleasure. "Humans," Vexthor hissed. His forked tongue flicked between his teeth as he spoke. "Your Federation sent you as ambassadors of peace, but you are merely prey. We have studied your kind for many cycles, weak and fragile and dependent on your machines. This sector now belongs to the Krell Coalition. Your deaths will serve as a message to your people. Stay in your corner of the galaxy or share this fate." The transmission ended before Jake could respond. The screen went black and Jake stared at his own reflection in the dead display. Behind him, he could see the rest of his crew. Engineer Danny Cruz clutched his broken arm against his chest. The bone had snapped during the first attack when he was thrown against a bulkhead. Medical Officer Lisa Grant moved from person to person with a med kit that had run out of supplies an hour ago. She was doing what she could with bandages and hope, but hope was in short supply. Pilot Kevin Sharp sat at his station and stared out the viewport at the debris field. Pieces of their ship tumbled through space. Metal and plastic and the frozen bodies of their friends. "How long?" Jake asked. Amy checked her console. 11 hours and 17 minutes. Oxygen will hit critical levels before that. We will start losing consciousness in about 9 hours. Jake nodded. There was nothing else to say. He opened the ship-wide communication channel. "All hands, this is the commander. I want you to know that it has been my honor to serve with each and every one of you. You are the best crew I have ever had. Record your final messages to your families. Tell them you love them. Tell them we did not give up. Tell them we faced the end with courage." His voice cracked on the last word. He closed the channel and turned away so nobody could see his face. Around the command center, the crew began recording their messages. Some cried. Some spoke calmly about their lives and their regrets. Others simply closed their eyes and waited for the darkness to take them. Hour 11 arrived. The oxygen levels dropped to 18%. Jake had stopped checking the chronometer because time meant nothing when you were counting down to death. The crew had said their goodbyes. They had recorded messages that would never reach Earth. Some prayed to gods they had not thought about in years. Others held hands with their friends and waited. Amy had slumped over her console. She was exhausted from sending distress calls into a void that would never answer. Her fingers had stopped moving on the keyboard. Jake thought she might have fallen unconscious, but then she lifted her head. "I am sorry, Commander," she whispered. "I failed you. I could not get us home." "You did everything right," Jake said. "This is not your fault. This is not anyone's fault except the Krell." Then something changed. A low hum resonated through the damaged hull. It was barely noticeable at first, just a vibration in the deck plates under their feet, but it grew stronger. The lights flickered. The dead console screen suddenly blazed to life with light and color. "What the hell?" Danny pushed himself upright. He stared at the engineering readouts with wide eyes. We are being scanned. High-intensity sensor sweep. Military grade. Jake felt his heart start to pound. After hours of accepting death, he felt a tiny spark of something he thought was gone. Krell? No, sir, Amy said. Her voice cracked with an emotion Jake could not identify. The signature is human. It is a Terran warship. That was impossible. They were weeks away from the nearest human outpost. The Federation did not patrol this deep in hostile space. Jake pulled himself to the main view screen and activated it. The display came on and showed a face he did not recognize, a man in his 40s with steel gray eyes and short dark hair. He wore a uniform that Jake had never seen before. It was darker than the standard Federation blue. More military, more aggressive. Behind him, a bridge full of personnel moved with precision and purpose. This is Captain Ben Walker of the TRS Vengeance, the man said. His voice was calm and controlled, but underneath it, Jake could hear something dangerous. Something like barely contained fury. We have received your distress signal, Meridian Hope. Hold your position. We are coming to get you. Jake opened his mouth, but no words came out. Finally, he managed to speak. Captain Walker, how did you find us? We are in Krell-controlled space. No Federation ships patrol this sector. Walker's expression hardened. His gray eyes turned to ice. The Federation does not, we do. Stand by for emergency docking procedures. The transmission cut to black. Through the viewport, something massive emerged from the darkness of space. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of their diplomatic vessel. The hull was midnight black and covered in angular armor plating. Weapon arrays bristled from every surface. This was not an exploration ship. This was not a science vessel. This was something built for one purpose and one purpose only. War. My God, Kevin whispered. What is that thing? The ship moved closer, and Jake could see the name painted on the hull in white letters. TRS Vengeance. Docking clamps extended from the warship like the talons of a hunting bird. The crew of the Meridian Hope stared in silence as their salvation approached. Jake realized that something had changed. Something big had happened in human space while they were gone on their 6-month mission. Something fundamental had shifted in how humanity saw itself and its place in the galaxy. And the Krell were about to learn what happens when you leave humans to die in the dark. The rescue happened fast. Marines from the Vengeance breached the airlocks of the Meridian Hope within minutes. They wore heavy combat armor that made them look like walking tanks. Their movements were efficient and practiced. They had done this before. Jake and his crew were pulled through the docking tunnel and into the warship. The difference was immediate. Where the Meridian Hope had been cold and dying, the Vengeance was warm and alive. The corridors hummed with power. The lights were bright and steady. Clean air filled Jake's lungs, and he realized he had forgotten what it felt like to breathe without rationing every breath. They were taken to a medical bay that looked like something from a military hospital. Advanced equipment lined the walls. Medical staff moved quickly to treat the injured crew members. Danny's broken arm was set and placed in a regeneration field. Lisa watched in amazement as technology she had never seen before began healing wounds that should have taken weeks to recover from. Within an hour, the crew of the Meridian Hope was stable and being fed and given clean clothes. Captain Ben Walker appeared in the doorway of the medical bay. He looked at Jake and said, "Commander Morrison, walk with me." Jake followed him into the corridors of the warship. They passed crew members who moved with military precision. Their faces were hard. Their eyes were focused. These were not the explorers and scientists Jake was used to seeing on Federation ships. These people were soldiers. Warriors who had seen combat and were ready for more. Walker led him to an observation deck. Large windows showed the space outside. Through the transparent hull, Jake could see 3 more ships like the Vengeance holding position in a defensive formation. They were all the same. Dark hulls, heavy armor, weapons everywhere. What is all this? Jake asked. I have never heard of the TRS classification. What does it stand for? Terran Retribution Service, Walker replied. He pulled up a holographic display from a control panel. We are not part of the Federation Navy. We operate independently under direct authority of the Terran Security Council. I did not know such a council existed. It did not until 3 months ago, Walker said. His jaw tightened as he spoke. While you were on your diplomatic mission, the Federation suffered coordinated attacks. 17 colonies were hit simultaneously. The Krell Coalition, the Vex Hegemony, the Shatari Collective, all species we had tried to make peace with. They saw our desire for diplomacy as weakness. They thought we would not fight back. Jake felt sick. His legs went weak and he grabbed the railing to steady himself. How many casualties? 2,400,000 dead. Another million missing, Walker said. Each word came out like a hammer blow. The Federation Council wanted to negotiate. They wanted to find a peaceful solution. But the people of Terra decided they had enough of being prey. We pooled resources from every human colony. We hired every military contractor, every weapons designer, every tactical genius we could find. No more science vessels, no more diplomatic cruisers, just warships. That is not who we are, Jake protested. Humanity has always chosen exploration over conquest. Peace over war. Walker turned to face him. Those gray eyes burned with something cold and calculated. Not madness, but pure focused purpose. You are right, Commander. That is who we were, and they left you to die for it. He gestured to the holographic display. This battle group is one of 30 we have deployed across the frontier. Our mission is simple. Find every human that the alien coalitions have attacked or betrayed or abandoned. Bring them home, and make sure those responsible understand the consequences of their actions. Through the viewport, Jake saw movement. A fleet of Krell ships was approaching. He counted 27 warships. Their formation was aggressive and confident. They thought they had the advantage. Walker smiled, but there was no warmth in it. No humor, just cold satisfaction. You are about to witness what happens when humanity stops asking for permission to survive. He tapped his communicator. All ships' battle stations. Load all weapons. Execute Protocol Fury. Around them, the Vengeance came alive. Alarms sounded. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Jake heard boots running as crew members rushed to their posts. The ship turned smoothly and lined up with the approaching Krell fleet. Shields up, Walker ordered. Charge particle lances. Target their command ship first. On the view screen, the Krell fleet filled the display. Their ships were massive and covered in heavy armor. They had won battles against a dozen species. They thought humans would be easy prey. Commander Vexthor's voice crackled across the communication channel. His reptilian hiss filled the observation deck. Unknown Terran vessels, you are in Krell sovereign space. Surrender your ships or be destroyed. This is your only warning. Walker sat down in his command chair. He leaned back and crossed his arms. No, he said simply. The word hung in the air for a moment. Then Walker made a gesture and the world exploded into violence. The Vengeance moved first. Where the Meridian Hope had been slow and clumsy, this warship was fast and deadly. It rolled 90 degrees and presented its ventral surface to the enemy. Dozens of weapons arrays covered the underside of the hull. Fire, Walker said. Brilliant blue energy erupted from the ship. Not standard plasma cannons, not missiles or railguns. Something new. Something humanity had built in secret. The beams of light crossed the distance between the fleets in an instant. The lead Krell battlecruiser tried to raise its shields, but it was too slow. The particle lance punched through the shields like they were made of paper. It cut through the armor plating, through the hull, through the engineering section, through the reactor core. The Krell ship exploded. A sphere of white fire expanded and consumed the battlecruiser. Pieces of debris scattered in every direction. Target lock on ships 2 and 3, the tactical officer said. Lieutenant Sophie Blake worked her console with practiced efficiency. Firing! 2 more lances of blue energy. 2 more Krell ships died. Their hulls split open. Their reactors went critical. In the span of 10 seconds, 3 enemy warships had been reduced to wreckage. What was that? Jake breathed. Particle lance, Sophie said without looking away from her console. We stopped playing fair with aliens who wanted us dead. The other Terran warships spread out. The Reckoning and the Defiance and the Hammer moved in a pattern that seemed random at first. But Jake had been a tactical officer before he made commander. He understood what they were doing. They were herding the Krell fleet, forcing them into a killing zone where every Terran ship would have clear shots. Vexthor's voice came over the channel again. The confidence was gone. Now there was only fear. What are these weapons? This is not Federation technology. What have you done? Walker leaned forward. We evolved. Something you should have considered before you started hunting us. The Krell ships tried to scatter. They broke formation and attempted to flee in different directions. But the Terran warships were faster, more maneuverable. Every shot found its target. Every movement was calculated. The battle was not a fight. It was an execution, a lesson being taught in fire and blood. From the medical bay, Danny and Amy and the rest of the Meridian Hope crew watched on view screens. Danny whispered in awe, "They are not just winning. They are sending a message." He was right. Jake could see it now. The Terran ships could have destroyed the entire Krell fleet in minutes. But they were not doing that. They disabled engines. They destroyed weapons. They left life support intact. They wanted survivors. They wanted witnesses to carry the message back to the Krell Empire. Within 20 minutes it was over. 15 Krell ships drifted powerless in space. Their hulls were scarred and broken, but their crews were alive. The remaining ships had been completely destroyed. Not a single Terran vessel had taken damage. Not one scratch on their hulls. Walker opened a channel to the crippled Krell ships. "This is Captain Ben Walker of the Terran Retribution Service. You will return to your empire and deliver this message. Humanity is no longer prey. Every attack on our people will be answered. Every betrayal will be repaid. We gave you peace and you chose war. Now you will learn what war with Terra truly means. Tell your leaders. Tell your people. The age of hunting humans is over." He closed the channel and turned to Jake. "Commander, you and your crew will be escorted back to Federation space. You have a choice to make when you get there." "What choice?" Jake asked. "Whether to go back to exploring the stars and hoping for the best, or join us in making sure our species survives," Walker said. "The galaxy thought we were weak because we were kind. We are going to teach them the difference between kindness and weakness." Jake looked out at the burning Krell ships. Then he looked back at his crew. They were alive. They had been given a second chance. He thought about Vexthor's words. Pray. Maybe it was time for humanity to be something else. 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the Grand Assembly on Luna. The massive chamber was filled with people. Representatives from every human colony sat in curved rows that rose up toward the ceiling. Military officers in dress uniforms lined the walls. Civilians packed the observation galleries. Everyone had come to decide the future of humanity, the future of their species in a galaxy that had proven itself hostile. The debate had been going on for 6 hours. The traditionalists argued for restraint, for diplomacy, for returning to the peaceful exploration that had defined humanity for 2 centuries. But their voices were drowned out by the families of the dead, by the survivors of the attacks, by the colonists who had watched their homes burn while waiting for rescue that came too late, or never came at all. Admiral Claire Henderson stood at the central podium. She had been appointed to lead the new Terran Defense Initiative. Her uniform was crisp and covered in medals from conflicts that most civilians had never heard about. She looked out at the assembly and began to speak. "For 200 years we have spread across the stars with open hands and hopeful hearts. We believed that peace was possible, that understanding could bridge any gap between species. We were wrong." She paused and let those words sink in. "We have been rewarded with betrayal and exploitation and slaughter. The alien coalitions did not attack us because they feared us. They attacked us because they did not." She activated a holographic display above the podium. Images of the Terran Retribution Service fleet appeared. The dark warships rotated slowly in the air. "In 3 months, our new warships have rescued 47 stranded human vessels. We have evacuated 12 colonies under siege. We have engaged hostile forces in 32 separate actions. We have not lost a single battle, not because we are cruel, but because we are prepared, because we finally understood that the galaxy respects strength." A representative from New Terra stood. She was an older woman with gray hair and tired eyes. "But at what cost, Admiral? We are abandoning everything humanity stands for. We are becoming the very thing we have always opposed. Warmongers, aggressors, we are letting fear turn us into monsters." Murmurs of agreement rippled through some sections of the assembly. Jake listened to the arguments from both sides. He understood their concerns. Humanity had always prided itself on being different from the violent species that dominated the galaxy. They had been explorers and scientists and dreamers, but dreamers died when predators came hunting. Jake found himself standing up. He had not planned to speak, but something inside him demanded to be heard. All eyes in the Grand Assembly turned toward him. Thousands of people watching and waiting. "I was left to die in space by creatures who saw our desire for peace as weakness," Jake said. His voice carried through the chamber, strong and clear. "I watched my crew suffocate. I watched good people accept death because we knew nobody was coming to save us. We recorded final messages to families we would never see again. We said goodbye to a universe that had decided we did not matter. He paused and looked around the assembly. Then the silence shattered. A Terran ship appeared, not because they were nearby, not because it was convenient, but because the Terran Retribution Service made it their mission to ensure that no human is ever abandoned again. Captain Walker and his crew traveled deep into hostile space to bring us home. They fought an entire Krell battle fleet and won because they refused to let us die forgotten in the dark. Jake's voice grew stronger. We are not becoming monsters. We are becoming survivors. There is a difference between seeking war and being prepared for it. The Federation can still explore. We can still seek peaceful contact. We can still reach out to the stars with hope. But now we do it with the knowledge that if anyone tries to prey on us, there will be consequences. Real consequences that make them think twice before attacking human ships or human colonies. A younger representative stood. But where does it end, Commander? If we build these weapons, if we embrace military might, how do we know when to stop? How do we prevent ourselves from becoming the aggressors? By remembering who we are, Jake said. We did not start this war. We did not attack alien colonies or leave their people to die. We responded to aggression with strength. That is not the same as becoming the aggressor. The Terran Retribution Service exists to protect human lives, not to conquer, not to dominate, but to ensure that every human in this galaxy knows that if they are in danger, help will come. That is not evil. That is survival. The debate continued for another hour, but Jake could see the tide had turned. The assembly was leaning toward the new Terran doctrine. When the vote was finally called, the chamber fell silent. The holographic display showed the results in real time as representatives cast their votes. 73% in favor. The new Terran doctrine passed. Humanity would continue to explore and seek knowledge and offer friendship to species who would accept it. But never again would they be defenseless. Never again would they apologize for surviving. As the assembly began to disperse, Amy found Jake in the crowd. So what now, Commander? Back to diplomatic missions, Jake smiled. It was the first real smile he had felt in weeks. I have been reassigned. The TRS Valiant. They need experienced officers who understand what is at stake. Making sure no one else gets left to die, Amy asked. Exactly. They walked together toward the viewing platform. The massive windows of the Luna complex looked out over the orbital shipyards. Dozens of new warships were under construction. Their dark hulls gleamed in the reflected light of Earth. Each one represented humanity's commitment to protecting its own. Each one was a promise that the age of being prey was over. Amy looked at the ships and then at Jake. Do you think we can really do this? Change who we are without losing ourselves? I think we have to try, Jake said. The galaxy gave us no choice. But that does not mean we have to become like them. We can be strong and kind. We can be warriors and explorers. We just have to remember why we are fighting. To protect our people. To protect our people, Jake agreed. Far above them in orbit around Luna, the TRS Valiant was completing its final systems checks. The warship was smaller than the Vengeance, but no less deadly. Jake would take command in 2 days. His new crew was already assembled. Veterans from the Retribution Service mixed with former Federation officers who had chosen to join the fight. Together, they would patrol the frontier. They would respond to distress calls. They would make sure that no human ever felt the despair that Jake had felt drifting in the Meridian Hope. Back on Earth, families gathered around view screens to watch the news. The passage of the new Terran doctrine was the top story on every network. Some celebrated. Some protested. But everyone understood that humanity had reached a turning point. They could no longer pretend the galaxy was a safe place. They could no longer rely on the goodwill of species that saw them as weak. In the Krell Empire, Commander Vexthor stood before the War Council. His scales were pale with fear as he recounted what had happened. The council listened in silence as he described the Terran warships. The particle lances that cut through shields like they were nothing. The precision of the attack. The message that Captain Walker had sent. They are no longer the weak prey species we studied, Vexthor said. They have changed, evolved. Humanity has teeth now and they are not afraid to use them. The Krell High Commander was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke in a low hiss. Withdraw all forces from human borders. Cancel all planned raids on their colonies. We will not provoke them further until we understand the full extent of their capabilities. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy, in the Vex hegemony, in the Shatari Collective, in every empire and coalition that had seen humanity as easy targets. Word spread quickly through the stars. The humans had changed. They were dangerous now. They had stopped asking for permission to exist. And in the dark spaces between the stars, Terran warships continued their patrols. Silent and watchful, ready to respond when the call came. Ready to ensure that no human would ever be left to die alone and forgotten. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the TRS Valiant and watched his new crew work. 2 months had passed since he took command. 2 months of patrol routes through sectors that used to be considered safe, but were now known hunting grounds. The crew moved with the efficiency he had come to expect from Retribution Service personnel. No wasted movement. No hesitation. They knew their jobs and they did them well. Lieutenant Amy Parker had followed him from the Meridian Hope. She sat at the communications station monitoring channels across a dozen frequencies. Next to her, Danny Cruz managed the engineering console. His arm had healed completely thanks to the advanced medical technology on the Vengeance. Both had chosen to join the Retribution Service. Both understood what was at stake. "Commander, we are receiving a distress signal," Amy said. Her fingers moved across her console, pulling up data. "It is coming from the Archer colony. They are under attack." Jake felt his blood turn cold. Archer colony was home to 50,000 civilians, families, children. "How far?" 3 hours at maximum speed, Danny said. He was already redirecting power to the engines. "But Commander, that puts us deep in Shatari space. If we go in there, we will be in violation of their territorial claims." "I do not care about their territorial claims," Jake said. "Plot the course. Full speed. Battle stations." Alarms sounded throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. The crew rushed to their posts. Jake sat in his command chair and pulled up the tactical display. The holographic image showed Archer Colony as a blue dot. Surrounding it were red dots. Shatari warships, at least a dozen of them. The Valiant jumped to maximum speed. The stars stretched into lines as they pushed the engines to their limits. Jake opened a channel to the entire ship. "All hands, this is the captain. We are responding to a distress call from Archer Colony. They are under attack by Shatari forces. We will arrive in 3 hours. I expect every weapon charged and ready. I expect every system operating at peak efficiency. And I expect every member of this crew to do their duty. No human colony falls while we draw breath." "Understood." A chorus of affirmatives came back through the communication system. Jake closed the channel and turned to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Sophie Blake had transferred to the Valiant at his request. She was the best weapons officer he had ever seen. "Sophie, what are we looking at?" 12 Shatari cruisers, she said, reading her displays. "Standard configuration. Heavy plasma cannons. Missile batteries. Their shields are strong but not as advanced as Krell technology. The particle lances will punch through." "How many shots before we need to recharge?" 8 full power shots per lance. We have 4 lance arrays. That gives us 32 shots before we need to cycle the capacitors. Jake did the math in his head. 32 shots against 12 ships. It would be close. What about conventional weapons? Railguns fully loaded. Missile tubes ready. Point defense systems online. The next 3 hours felt like 3 days. Jake watched the distance to Archer Colony shrink on his display. He reviewed the tactical data. He studied the enemy ship configurations. He planned attack vectors and fallback positions. But mostly he thought about the people down on that colony, the families hiding in shelters, the militia trying to hold off an invasion force with weapons designed for police work, not war. 30 seconds to weapons range, Sophie announced. "Drop us out of high speed," Jake ordered. "Raise shields. Charge all weapons. Target the lead Shatari ship." The Valiant dropped back into normal space at the edge of the Archer system. Through the viewports, Jake could see the colony. A small moon orbiting a gas giant. The settlements were visible as clusters of lights on the surface. Above them, the Shatari fleet had formed a blockade. Their ships were massive and angular, covered in spikes and armor plating that made them look like flying fortresses. "They are hailing us," Amy said. "Put them through." The view screen activated. A Shatari commander appeared. His face was insectoid with multiple eyes and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. "Human vessel, you are in Shatari territory. Leave immediately or be destroyed." "This colony is under Terran protection," Jake said. His voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. "You have attacked civilians. You have violated every agreement between our species. Withdraw your forces or face the consequences." The Shatari commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. Laughter. "One human ship against our fleet. You are either brave or foolish. We will add your wreckage to the debris field around this colony. The transmission cut off. Jake watched as the Shatari ships began to move into attack formation. Sophie, you have weapons free. Engage at will. Yes, sir. The Valiant rolled and presented its ventral surface. The 4-particle lance arrays glowed with blue light. Firing, Sophie said. 4 beams of concentrated energy lanced across space. They hit the lead Shatari cruiser simultaneously. The shields flared and held for a fraction of a second. Then they collapsed. The beams punched through the hull and the ship exploded from the inside out. Target destroyed, Sophie reported. Cycling to next target. But the Shatari were not backing down. They opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts and missiles filled the space between the fleets. Jake gripped his chair as the Valiant's shields took hits. The ship shuddered but held together. Shields at 70%, Danny called out. Rerouting power from non-essential systems. Evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. The pilot sent the Valiant into a spiral that threw off the targeting solutions of half the enemy fleet. Sophie, keep firing. 4 more particle lance shots. 2 Shatari ships died, but there were still 9 left and they were closing in. The Valiant was fast, but it could not dodge everything. More hits slammed into the shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shields at 40%. Jake made a decision. Launch all missiles. Target the ships on our flanks, then bring us about and focus lance fire on the command ship. Missile tubes opened along the Valiant's hull. Dozens of warheads streaked toward the enemy. The Shatari point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. Explosions rippled across 3 ships as missiles found their targets. The vessels were crippled but not destroyed. The Valiant turned hard and charged directly at the Shatari command ship. It was the largest vessel in their fleet, covered in extra armor and bristling with weapons. The range closed rapidly. Jake could see the individual weapon ports on the enemy hull. Fire everything, he ordered. 4 particle lances, railgun rounds, the last of the missiles, everything the Valiant had. The combined firepower hit the command ship like the hammer of an angry god. Shields collapsed, armor melted. The hull split open along multiple fracture lines. For a moment the ship hung there in space looking almost intact. Then the reactor breached and the ship came apart in a ball of fire. Command ship destroyed, Sophie said. There was satisfaction in her voice. The remaining Shatari ships hesitated. Their formation broke apart. They had come expecting to massacre a defenseless colony. Instead, they had lost half their fleet to a single Terran warship. Jake opened a channel to them. This is your only warning. Leave now or join your command ship. The choice is yours. The Shatari ships turned and fled. Their engines burned bright as they accelerated away from the colony. Jake watched them go and let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. Hail the colony, he said. Amy opened the channel. A face appeared on the view screen. A woman with dirt on her face and exhaustion in her eyes. This is Governor Sandra Mills of Archer Colony. Thank God you came. We thought we were going to die. You are safe now, Governor, Jake said. The Shatari are gone. We will remain in orbit until a defense platform can be established. How can we ever thank you? You do not need to thank us. This is what we do. Protect our people, no matter where they are, no matter what threatens them. The transmission ended. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They were battered but alive. The Valiant had taken damage but nothing critical. They had saved 50,000 lives today. That was what mattered. Set course for the nearest repair station, Jake ordered. And somebody get me a damage report. I want to know what we are working with. As the Valiant moved into a stable orbit around Archer Colony, Jake allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Shatari had learned the same lesson the Krell learned. Humanity was no longer prey. They were the hunters now, and anyone who threatened human lives would face the consequences. 6 months passed. The Terran Retribution Service continued to grow. New warships launched from Earth's orbital shipyards every week. The fleet expanded to cover more territory. More patrols. More protection for human colonies that had lived in fear for too long. The alien empires noticed. They pulled back from human borders. They canceled raids. They watched and waited and tried to understand what humanity had become. Jake stood in the command center of the TRS Vengeance again. Captain Walker had requested his presence for a meeting. The observation deck looked the same as it had 6 months ago. Dark space filled with distant stars. But something felt different now. The silence was not threatening anymore. It was peaceful. Humanity had claimed its place in the galaxy. Commander Morrison, Walker said. He approached from across the deck. His gray eyes still held that intensity, but there was something else now. Maybe satisfaction, maybe pride. Thank you for coming. I wanted to show you something. He activated a holographic display. A star chart appeared showing human space and the surrounding sectors. Blue dots marked human colonies. Green dots marked retribution service ships. Red dots showed hostile forces. But the red dots were far away now, pushed back to the edges of the map. This is what we have accomplished, Walker said. 6 months ago, human colonies were being attacked daily. Our people were dying. Our ships were being destroyed. Now look at this. The last hostile incident was 3 weeks ago, a Vex scout ship that got too close to the Henderson colony. We intercepted it before it could report back. Since then, nothing. The entire frontier has been quiet. Because they fear us, Jake said. Because they respect us, Walker corrected. Fear is temporary. Fear fades when the threat seems distant. Respect lasts because it is earned through action. We showed them that attacking humans has consequences, real and immediate consequences. They learned. Jake studied the map. So many colonies. So many people living their lives without constant fear. It felt like a victory, but something nagged at him. What happens now? Do we just patrol forever? Do we keep building warships until we have the biggest fleet in the galaxy? Walker turned off the display. That is a good question. One the Terran Security Council is debating right now. Some want to continue expanding. They want humanity to become a dominant military power. Others think we should scale back now that the immediate threat has passed. Return to exploration and science. What do you think? I think we need balance, Walker said. He looked out at the stars. We proved we could fight. We showed the galaxy that humanity is not weak. But if we keep building our military without purpose, we become the very thing we fought. Against aggressors, conquerors, that is not who we are. So what is the answer? We maintain enough strength to protect our people, but we do not seek to dominate others, Walker said. We keep the Retribution Service as a defensive force. We patrol our borders. We respond to threats. But we also return to what made humanity special in the first place. Exploration, discovery, reaching out to species who want peace. Jake nodded slowly. It sounds good in theory. But what if the alien empires see that as weakness again? What if they test us? Then we remind them why they learned to respect us in the first place, Walker said with a slight smile. The difference is now we have proven we can defend ourselves. The next time we extend a hand in friendship, they will know there is a fist behind it, if they try to take advantage. The door to the observation deck opened. Admiral Henderson entered, followed by several other high-ranking officers. She looked at Jake and Walker. Gentlemen, the Council has made their decision. The future of the Terran Retribution Service has been determined. Everyone turned to face her. The tension in the room was thick. This decision would shape humanity's future for generations. The Council has voted to maintain the Retribution Service as a permanent defensive force, Henderson said. We will not expand beyond what is necessary to protect human space. But we will not disarm either. The fleet will remain at current strength. New ships will be built only to replace losses or cover new colonies as humanity expands. She pulled up her own holographic display. Additionally, the Council has approved a new initiative. The Terran Diplomatic Corps will be reformed. We will send ambassadors to species who have not attacked us. We will seek trade agreements and alliances. But every diplomatic ship will be escorted by a Retribution Service warship. We extend friendship with one hand and hold a sword in the other. A reasonable compromise, Walker said. More than that, Henderson replied. It is a return to who we are while acknowledging what we have learned. Humanity will continue to explore and discover and dream, but we will never again be defenseless. We will never again watch our people die because we were too naive to prepare for the worst. She looked at Jake. Commander Morrison, you have been selected to lead the first diplomatic mission under this new policy. You will take the Valiant to the Dorvan system. They are a young species just beginning to explore beyond their home world. They have expressed interest in meeting humanity. Your mission is to establish first contact and determine if an alliance is possible. Jake felt a surge of excitement. This was what he had trained for before everything changed, before the betrayals and the attacks. I would be honored, Admiral. Your escort will be provided by the TRS Defiance. Captain Walker will command the military aspects of the mission. You will handle diplomacy. Together you will show the galaxy what the new humanity looks like. Strong but not aggressive. Prepared but still hopeful. The meeting continued for another hour. Details were discussed. Mission parameters were defined. But Jake barely heard any of it. His mind was racing with possibilities. Humanity was returning to the stars not as victims but as equals. They would explore and discover and reach out to other species. But this time they would do it with the confidence that came from knowing they could defend themselves. 2 weeks later, the Valiant and the Defiance left Earth orbit together. Their destination was 40 light-years away, a journey that would take 3 weeks through hyperspace. Jake stood on his bridge and watched Earth shrink in the viewport. The blue marble that held billions of humans. The homeworld that had almost lost everything but found the strength to survive. "Course laid in, Commander," the pilot said. "Engage." The ships jumped to hyperspace. The stars blurred and stretched. Jake sat in his command chair and thought about everything that had changed. 6 months ago, he had been dying in the dark, left to die by aliens who saw humans as prey. Then the silence shattered and a Terran ship appeared. That moment had changed everything. Not just for him, but for all of humanity. They had learned that kindness without strength was suicide. But they had also learned that strength without kindness made you a monster. The balance between the two was what defined humanity. They would reach out to the stars with hope and friendship. But if anyone tried to hurt them, there would be consequences, swift and certain and devastating. The Dorvan system appeared ahead of them, a yellow star with 6 planets. The 4th planet showed signs of industrial civilization, radio signals, satellite networks, a species taking its first steps into the larger galaxy. Jake felt a familiar excitement, the thrill of discovery, the wonder of meeting a new form of life. "Hail them," he ordered. Amy sent the first contact message, a simple greeting in mathematical language that any technological species would understand. They waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Finally, a response came back. A voice speaking in a language they did not understand, but the tone was clear. Curiosity, hope, welcome. "Begin translation protocols," Jake said. "And somebody get me a full scan of their planet. I want to know everything about these people before we meet them face to face." Behind the Valiant, the Defiance held position. Its weapons were powered down but ready. Its shields were on standby. Captain Walker watched from his bridge. He was prepared for anything. If the Dorvan proved hostile, he would respond immediately. If they proved peaceful, he would remain silent and let Jake handle the diplomacy. This was the new humanity. Explorers and warriors, dreamers and fighters. They had learned the hardest lesson the galaxy could teach. Survival required both compassion and strength. Peace was only possible when you were strong enough to defend it. Hope was only meaningful when you had the power to protect it. Jake looked at his crew, Amy and Danny and Sophie and all the others. They had come so far, from the dying Meridian hope to this moment, standing at the edge of first contact with a new species, ready to extend friendship, ready to defend themselves if necessary. "Begin approach to the 4th planet," Jake ordered. "Standard first contact protocols. Let us show them what humanity can be." The Valiant moved forward, a dark warship carrying a message of peace, a symbol of everything humanity had become. Strong and kind, dangerous and hopeful, ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them. Behind them, Earth continued to build. New colonies spread across human space. New ships launched to protect them. Humanity had learned its lesson. They would never again be prey. They would never again apologize for surviving. They would reach for the stars with both hands, one extended in friendship, the other ready to form a fist. And in the dark spaces between the stars, other species watched and learned. The humans had changed. They were no longer